Welcome to the PostalMate webinar, Certified Mail in PostalMate with an Indicia account. My name is Karen Grant and I'll be your instructor today. The following is the agenda that we'll be looking at today. These are the highlights. And you have that customer that walks in your store and 1 out of 10 times that customer says, "Hey, I need to send something registered mail. Can I do that here?" And you're going, Well, the answer is no. You cannot do registered mail. You are not, unless you are a contract postal unit, this is not one of the mail services you are permitted to resell in your store. So no to registered mail. But those of us that are seasoned in the industry know that your customer's probably asking about certified mail and just not saying the right words. So your response would be, "Do you mean certified with maybe a return receipt?" And usually they'll say, yeah, that's what I mean. And you say, "Well, of course we can offer that. Come on up and let's take care of you." If it's registered mail, be sure to send them to the post office. Again, unless you're an actual contract postal unit. A contract postal unit means that you have a special contract with the post office and they pay a whole bunch of money to you every single month. You get a check from the post office for a few $1,000s. If that's not you, and that's only about I think we only have about 10 or 15 stores in PostalMate that are contract postal units, then the answer would be no for registered mail. Certified is primarily used to prove that a letter has been sent. It can also prove with a return receipt that it was received, but it is for legal purposes in most cases. So you want to make sure that you do it correctly. So when you use certified mail, there are 2 ways in PostalMate to do it, and we're going to first focus on quick postage because this is the old standby. This is kind of what people are used to. They come into your store and they get one of these little forms here, and it's called a 3800, and we're going to use a lot of numbers today, so we call them the correct things so that we can differentiate. And so this 3800, you'll have a stack of them at your store. And you usually hand it to your customer and say, yeah, fill out the name and address to where the package or where the mail piece is going. And they do that and hand it back to you. And then you can stick it on the envelope and print out a stamp from your Dymo printer. You can also include a return receipt. So this is kind of a postcard looking thing. It's a heavier duty thing, as you know. And most of you are familiar with this, so I'm not telling you anything new yet. And you stick this often on the back. If it fits on the front, stick it on the front. But if it's a small envelope, it fits on the back. And you have this tail on the 3800. And this is the part that's going to be some new information to some people. This tail, we often haven't known what quite to do with it in our industry. You do not tear this tail off. You do not give it to your customer. You do not stamp your receipt on it or your information on it. You do not put your date on it. You have to take this mail piece to the post office, to the clerk at the counter, and get it round dated. And that's this date here. This is a legal term. It's called a round date. Only the post office is allowed to have one of these. You cannot fake it. You cannot create your own. That would be illegal. You cannot be an imposter and pretend to be the post office. This rubber stamp here is what makes this legally acceptable to the IRS, to most judges. Now, you will find on occasion a local judge or justice of the peace might accept your own stamp and receipt on it, but in general, judges do not state, and federal judges will not accept your receipt as proof of mailing. It has to have this round date, and the only ones that have the round date are the clerks at the post office. Your driver or carrier is not allowed to have one. They're not allowed of the building. This is not new. This has been this way since the inception of certified mail day 1. So for all these years, if you've not been doing this, you've been doing it wrong. And I'm not blaming you. It's not like the post office is offering you any webinars to help you learn this stuff. It's not like Indicia is helping you learn this stuff. You're just in the dark. And let's face it, the domestic mail manual is a huge monstrosity of several thousand pages. It makes the Bible look small. Nobody wants to read all of that to try to figure this out. So I'm not blaming you, but I am informing you. This has to be, so if you use quick postage and this needs to be legal, then By all means. Now, if your customer just wants it certified because they're sending a check to their son, it's probably not as big a deal. But most reasons for certified is to be a legal backup for your customer. Do not do them a disservice. Your local post office, if it is an official post office, does have round dates and will round date. They are required to, and if they are not, you need to go up the post office chain and talk to whoever's in charge. Your post office, wherever you are, I don't care if you're in the big city or a little town, your post office is governed by a larger post office. So in the city I operated my stores in was Mesa, Arizona. We probably had 20 or so post offices, but it was governed by the central post office. And that post office in Mesa was governed by the Phoenix post office. And the Phoenix post office was governed by the regional post office in San Francisco. And the San Francisco regional post office was governed by the federal government in Washington, D.C. So you may have to go up the food chain if your post office is not round dating. But I have rarely, if ever, heard of that. And I had one of you just comment that your local post office won't. I need you to go up the food chain and find out why that is so. If they're just a little Hallmark store and you're turning your mail in there, that contract postal unit, that could be why. They get to say what they want to do and what they don't want to do. They have more latitude with that. But if it's a real post office, then they do have to round date these. Okay, so I'm sorry if this, has just blown a whole bunch of people's method of doing things, but this has to be done. Okay, so return receipts are optional. They're often unnecessary, but if your customer wants one, by all means, sell it to them. It's extra money. They currently are not available for us electronically through Indicia. One day I keep thinking they will, but it hasn't happened yet. And they're basically green postcards. Needs to have your sender's address so it can come back to them. Needs to have the certified number either written or, usually written here, or if you're using the quick postage method, there's a little strip you can peel off and plop right in there. So plop, that's an official word, by the way. And the actual return receipt has tracking number now. Now, for those of you who have stores that have been around a while and you don't get new stuff terribly often, or you have a lot of old supplies of stuff, highly recommend that you throw out all your old certified forms, throw out all your old return receipts, and get newer ones. If it's more than a few years old, they do refresh these and change them a little bit every few years. It doesn't mean that the old ones would be invalid, but it may not have some of the options or fields needed for to be current. And so I would want you to have the most current stuff. I mean, guys, it's free, so you might as well have the most current stuff. And then you can put this card on the front or back of the envelope. If it's a big manila envelope, I always put it on the front, because if it goes on the back, sometimes the carriers will miss it. So put it on the front if it'll fit, but if it's a small envelope, obviously it's going to go on the back. And this has to be used with certified. It can't be used without certified on a letter piece. Okay, so when you do send certified and your customer tracks it, this is what shows when it's delivered. And you can see down here, it shows first class mail, certified. This one happened to be certified with a return receipt. So it does show up in the online tracking. So when you're placing your items on the mail piece for quick postage, it's going to go something like this. And I know this label is a little different than what yours would look like. You would have probably this handwritten, and then this would be actually this sticker. But I wanted to show this one because it shows the correct placement of everything. Remember, we're leaving this tail on, even though this person looks like they're going to tear it off. I would slap her hand, because we're leaving that tail on to take this item to the post office so it can get round dated. And then on the back, you would put that return receipt. And you can see that little strip right here. That was one of the strips right on here. So that fits right there. So if you're using quick postage, you would do that. You can handwrite it in. There's nothing wrong with handwriting it in. It's just, if you have this available, use it, because it's safer. You won't make a mistake in the numbers. And then again, leave that tail on. And I know I've got a whole bunch of you responding, because this was new information for a lot of you. And this is why we offer this webinar on an annual basis, and I think I always will, because I'll always get half a dozen to several dozen stores that didn't know this information. This is new information for almost all of you. Dymo through Indicia will be changing the types of labels that you input your Dymo printer. Currently, it has a pink side on the top and on the side. It's changing to this new one with a pink on top and pink on the bottom. And you're thinking, well, okay, I'll just, whatever. This is not, I'm not going to say this is a happy thing. First of all, this is going to be a required change. We've been told it's effective July of this year, so I want you to start using up all those that you currently have. My guess, though we have not confirmed, is that there will be a grace period where you can use both. I'm going to take a wild guess and say maybe 6 months. So they might give you through Christmas to continue using your old supply until it's done. But at some point in the future, and it could be as soon as July and it could be later, they will require the new labels to be used, and they look like this. Right now, the best price I have found on this is a little over 7 cents each, and that's crazy expensive. And chances of being able to get these as knockoffs are slim to none, and here's why. See this number on the side of the stamps? Well, they're actually going to require you to enter that number when you add a new roll of these labels to your Dymo printer. There will be a field that pops up, says new roll, and pops up, and we haven't seen it in action yet, but this is in theory how it works. And you enter this number and it sends to Indicia to validate that this is an approved roll of stamps. And then after 200 stamps, it'll pop up and look for the new number off of the next roll of stamps you pop in. So it prevents you from getting knockoffs and using knockoffs at any time. And that kind of stinks because, let's face it, 7 cents is really expensive for these. And I don't see any way around it. So if your store has been in the habit of selling individual stamps and printing them, like, 55-cent stamps, forever stamps, and printing them, I would say get used to selling them off a roll or a book of stamps that you open and have in a drawer. Because obviously, even with a 5-cent discount that you're currently getting for the first class stamp, if this costs 7 cents, you're going to lose 2 cents every time. I mean, I know most of you have a built-in profit, but geez, 7 cents is a lot on these. So I want you to think about that. I just wanted to, and as we get more information, I will have webinars and introduce more information in the future on this. When it actually is effective, we'll probably have a whole webinar on it so that I give you as much information as we possibly have. But that is all the information I currently have. So please don't ask me to spill more things that I don't have, promise. So the other way of doing a certified mail is through the parcel or document button of Postamate. In that case, you're going to get a full label from your label printer, 4x6 label. It's called an IMPB. That's what they call it. And it stands for Intelligent Mail Package Barcode Label. And when you do that, you're going to also use this sticker right over here. And if you haven't heard of that sticker, well, let's talk about that. This sticker is called the 3800N. Now, in my head, I always call it 3800N stands for no barcode, certified mail sticker with no barcode. It's not what it really stands for, but that makes it easy to in my head to keep them straight, because the 3800 was the one with the tail. The 3800N is the one with no barcode on it. So this is available at USPS.com. You can order it. All of this is free. So you can order a roll of these. I think there's 600 on the roll. And these have to go on the mail piece with the IMPB label. And why, you ask? It's because mailmen or women are blind and can't see when it's a certified. So this tells them it's a certified and they got to get a signature. Obviously, this is an example of an IMPB. It's not correct for certified because it wouldn't be enough postage. But I wanted to make sure you understood when I say IMPB what I'm talking about. And it's this full label here. So your first problem is, of course, it doesn't fit on a number 10 envelope, and this is a pain in the neck. And so your next question is, why can't Postamate make it fit, make it turn the other way? Well, I wish we could, but we don't create the labels. The labels actually come directly from Indicia's API. So if you've ever used their Dazzle program, which is their proprietary software, they actually can print certified mail labels in landscape mode, but they don't offer it in the API for us. And so any software, third-party software that uses the API, which is just about all software that uses Indicia, does not have landscape mode available at this time. We check every single year. We have a particular developer on our team, and he hates me this time of year every year, because every year I go and ask him to look again and see if Indicia has added landscape mode as an option that we could adopt. And every year he says, he comes back and says no, but he does go and check. I know he does. And we would like to have it landscape mode. But so here's what I can tell you. When Indicia offers it in landscape mode on the API, PostalMate will put it in. Until then, we're stuck with this way. So what do you do with it? Well, I wouldn't bend it to go around. Some people cut it up and try to make it fit on. There's no good answer for it. So if you turn it sideways, you can do that. You can also, but there's a big but there. It's going to cost more money, and I'll talk about that in a minute. You could also just use a 6x9 envelope, which means you could order a bunch of 6x9 envelopes and take it. But here's the kicker: 6x9. Well, you could put the items in here and then make it fit, and you would make it fit like this, not vertical. This is horizontal, meaning the length of the envelope is this way, and the label goes up and down, which is vertical on it. So hang on, I know where you're going, so we'll talk about that. If you want to place your label on vertically, which is not what I necessarily recommend, but I understand it's something you sometimes have to do. This is an example of a 6x9 envelope with it on vertically. This is the typical business envelope that you have, and this is what you usually end up with. And you do it here. You do have to add the non-machinable surcharge. So it costs more money to have the label on sideways. That's just a post office rule, and we'll get into those rules shortly, but this is what you will have to do. And that non-machinable surcharge right now is, your cost on that is 15 cents, and we allow you to mark that up if you want to. So just make sure and apply that. You do have to select it. Make sure and apply it if you're going to end up placing the label on it vertically, like this, in line with the length of the envelope. So I want to get back real quickly to these 6x9 envelopes, because I suggested this. And you're saying, well, why don't we just stuff this envelope inside this envelope? Well, if you try that, you're still going to have a problem, because the number 10 envelope, the business envelope here, you can see is about a ½ inch or so longer than the actual 6x9. So it doesn't even fit in properly. And then you have to fold it. And then it becomes non-machinable anyway, because now it's folded and bumpy. So basically, there's no good answer. And I don't know why somebody has not created a good 6x10 or 6x10.5 envelope. I have not been able to find one. I think a few store owners may have found a source for that, but I haven't found one, and that would be the perfect answer. So I don't know if that will happen, but I strongly suggest that you look for that anyway. So in a perfect world, your mail piece would look like this, but it's not perfect. So then you're going to create the postage with your label printer here. Stealth postage will apply to this label when available. Stealth postage never applies and never will apply to a stamp. The stamp always has to show the value on it. It will show the actual value you paid, not the forever postage, if you will. So currently, a stamp costs 55 cents if you go and just buy a stamp. But for you, your wholesale price when you print one is 50 cents. So it will print 50. But because it's online postage, your post office knows, or they should know, that you get a 5-cent online discount for printing your own. We do have stores in areas where their local post office is completely clueless about this and starts telling the store that there's not enough postage on it. When that happens, or if that happens, please contact Indicia They have said that they would be happy to enlighten your local post office. All right. There are occasions, by the way, just getting off track a little bit, when stealth postage cannot apply. So don't freak out if every once in a blue moon you see the postage appear on stealth, when you think it should be in stealth. If you insure through USPS, then stealth postage is not allowed to apply. And when you're sending to certain countries require that they be able to see the value of the postage. Brazil and Japan are two, but I know there's more than those two. So I don't want you freaking out if you have stealth postage on most of them and all of a sudden when you don't. There's probably a good reason. So at the end of each day, you're going to want to do a carrier pickup for USPS. And in the old days, we never had to worry about this. In fact, a lot of stores never did USPS pickups, and when they would go in here, they would do a carrier pickup, and there'd be 32,000 mail pieces ready for pickup because they let it go for 2 years. Well, you're going to want to do a carrier pickup every single day for USPS as part of your closeout. This should be done at your last mail pickup of the day, or takeout. So there's a lot of scenarios here, and I'm going to try to touch on most of them. Many of you, the last time your mail will go out for the day is when your carrier picks up. But many of you have an early pickup and physically go and haul your packages to the post office later in the day, like 4:35, 5:30, whatever, to the back dock or front of your post office and deliver them there. That would be, in that case, your last pickup. Whatever your last pickup is, that's when you want to print this out and have it scanned. When you do that, or when you print that out, you'll get a scan form, and the scan forms are a pass-through form. We don't create them, we don't control them. You will even notice up here it says U.S. Postal Service, down here it says PS Forms 5630. This is an official USPS form that is passed through Indicia and passed through Postalmate to you. You can reprint it in Postalmate. You can also reprint it from your indicia.com account. This scan here only includes labels or barcodes that were created through your Indicia account for the last time period since you previously printed. So that means drop-offs never will be included in this. When your carrier or the counter clerk or back dock clerk at the post office scans this, it uploads all of your information all of the information on this to the post office, to the website, so that when your customer goes to track it, it clearly states that this item has been picked up by the post office. And that's important. We're going to talk about that more in a minute. But I want to clarify that this does not list all of your articles. It only lists certain articles. You could have 48 first class mail items and they won't be listed in here. It only is required to list out certain things. So your number could really be 128. But there's certain items that are not required to be up here, but they will be included in this. The other thing I want to talk to you about is something called manual versus automatic scan forms. So all of you, when you set up your Indicia account, are set to automatic scan forms. And what that means is that each day around 8 p.m. Pacific time, Indicia will clear out basically all of the barcodes that it's holding on to for the day and start fresh. Now that works for most businesses because at the end of the day their mail is done. But it doesn't work good for our stores, because if your last mail pickup is at 4:30 and somebody comes in with a bunch of mail and does mail at your store at 4:45, and that clears out at 8 p.m., that won't be on the scan form because Indicia will have cleared it out. That's the purpose of what's called manual scan form. And what manual scan form does is it takes your store and does not automatically include them in that clear out. So again, that same example, at 4:30 in the afternoon, you create a scan form, your carrier picks up, or you take your mail, it goes away. 4:45, your customer comes in with a bunch of mail. Anything that is left over that night will appear on the next day's scan form. I mean, it'll be included in this barcode. You won't really see it, but it'll be included in this barcode if you are on manual scan forms. So how do you get that? You got to call Indicia and say, this is my Indicia account number. I want to be switched from automatic to manual scan forms. I did a webinar a couple years ago, and I had a representative from Indicia on the webinar, and he gave wrong information to you guys at that time, because I said these same things, and he said, no, you don't have to do that. It doesn't do that. It doesn't clear it out. And I found out later he was wrong. So I'm telling you, go ahead. There's no harm, no foul. If you want your packages or your barcoded things to hold over for the next day's scan form, call Indicia and say, I want to move my account from automatic scan forms to manual scan forms, and they can do that on your account. So again, this does not include drop-offs. It never does. It never will. It has no, even if you scan them in PostalMate, that does not upload it to Indicia or to the USPS. Indicia does not want to be responsible for your drop-offs. So you are completely responsible for drop-offs if you allow drop-offs for post office. And by the way, you are not required to accept drop-offs for post office. Pretty much all stores do, but that is your choice on whether or not to do that. All right, let's see what we can get here. Oh, sorry, not used to all that. There we go. Here's what, if somebody tracks their package before if you don't print out that scan form and have it scanned, or before it's been scanned for the day, this is what it will look like at the USPS website. It'll say that the shipping label was created, but that USPS is awaiting the item. And that basically tells your customer that you still have that item. Okay, as soon as your driver scans the scan form, and they are required to do so, it would look like this: accepted. And you can see that the item, USPS has picked up the item. And that makes sure that you are no longer responsible for that item. And so make sure that you do that scan form. Now, I said that your driver is required to scan that form with his barcode scanner. There's one exception. If you are in a very rural area and your carrier is not an employee of the USPS, but is instead a contracted worker for the USPS, they do not have those barcodes, or barcode scanners, or if they do, they are not required to scan the scan form. That's a very small percentage of our stores, but I wanted to be sure and let you know that. Most of us have regular USPS drivers, and they are required to scan your scan form. Okay, so let's go to PostalMate for a minute and take a look, and let's just do both of those examples really quick. So we're going into quick postage first. Come on. Oh, it's going to make me do this. Bear with me. It doesn't want me to. Oh, fudge buckets. You know fudge buckets? There we go. Okay, had to get rid of that little cursor thing. So we place an item on the scale. Hopefully your scale's connected, but mine's not. And you get postcard letter flat options here. You no longer get the parcel or package service options here because they are zoned. I did mention in a webinar that we would be looking at trying to bring that back. We have been told by Indicia, no, that printable postage is not allowed by law any longer to print for package service through Dymo. So for now, the answer is no. Unfortunately, I know it's not convenient, but them's the rules, as they say. So you have to decide if the item is a letter or a flat. There's guidelines right here, and we'll get more into those in a minute. And if it's certified, you'll pop it right here, and you will use that 3800 form with the tail on it, and you can scan. You can use your own barcode scanner and scan that number in here. And you might have more than one. And you can do more than one at a time here, okay? At tax time, often you'll have a stack of them. Somebody will bring a whole stack of them, and you can do that. And click OK. Yeah. And then if they want return receipt, you can check that. There's also a tracking number on the return receipt, and Postalmate's going to want you to scan the right one in for the right return or right certified. So it does it one at a time. So this area is highlighted. So you look for this certified number and you find the return receipt tracking number and scan it there. And then for this one, and sorry, obviously I don't have a barcode scanner, I'm making these up, but that's kind of what it does. And then they're all in the right order. If you're going to vertically put on that, then you got to select non-machinable also. And then you just click record. Doing a certified mail through parcel or document, you do select the from and to. So you're going to select a whole address just like you would with any other shipment, and 92. There we go. And so this should look familiar. Obviously, it's going to weigh an ounce. By the way, make sure this is shape-based. First-class mail is always shape-based. Entering dimensions here isn't going to determine whether it qualifies for a flat or a letter because it's not exclusively dimension-based. It is shape-based. We'll talk about that more in a moment. So we get to our rate comparison screen, choose the first-class letter or flat. And then, by the way, I really encourage you to get your words in here. Must fit size restrictions helps you with that flat. And then you click next. No, I've got my dimensions are required on all. Sorry about that. I just told you otherwise, didn't I? All right. Yeah. And then you can click on certified and then return receipt. And return receipt is going to have a space for you to enter the tracking number because that is not electronic for the return receipt part. And then you're going to get your IMPB label. And remember, okay, let me get back to our screenshot. For quick postage, hold on here. For quick postage, we're going to put everything on like this. And then for the full IMPB label, you're going to put it on similar to this. Okay. And then make sure that the carrier pickup is done at the end of the day. I said we'd get back to shape-based mail guidelines. And so this is the guidelines that popped up earlier. And we give you these, and they're available in both sides of Postmate. So parcel or document, it's the blue I believe. And then with quick postage, it's the guidelines button. And this is what determines a letter, flat, or package service. And here's the kicker, and this is the one that's going to kill a bunch of you. Again, this is going to be new information for a bunch of you. You don't get to upgrade just because you want it. We've had in the past stores that if you want a tracking number and it's a letter, you have to do certified. If you want a tracking number and it's a flat, you have to do a certified. If you want a tracking number and it's package service, tracking comes with it. It used to be called delivery confirmation, and it's free. So what we used to have is stores thinking they were pretty slick. They would take a flat in particular and just pay the package service price, and that way they'd get free tracking and wouldn't have to put certified on it, and it would save $1 or so. No, that is illegal, and it will often go as postage due and be upgraded to priority mail or certified, one or the other. The post office has a choice. Don't do that. You don't get to choose to upgrade from flat to package service just because you want free tracking and you want to pay more. It doesn't work that way. First class mail is required to go by the classification that the shape base mandates it falls in, the category it falls in. So if it's a flat and it qualifies as only a flat, it's got to go as a flat. And if you want a tracking number, it has to be certified. Now, if you really want a great way to cheat, I'll tell you how to cheat, because cheating in a legal way, I'll talk to you about. Cheating in an illegal way, I'll tell you not to do. And here's the way. This right down here, it says it must be of uniform thickness. So if you have a flat and you want to upgrade it to package service, throw in some peanuts, especially if you're smart and use those S-shaped peanuts that are really firm. Throw in 3 or 4 peanuts, and now it's not of uniform thickness, and it qualifies as a package. That's the legal way of cheating, and at little or no cost. So, but don't just do it just because. So make sure that you upgrade. Also, these items do have to be flexible, and there's actually, oh my gosh, there's a crazy rule on how to test it. Basically, you hang half the envelope off of the counter, and you have to be able to bend it down comfortably. I always like to think of a magazine. If there's a magazine in it, you know, even if it's a thick magazine, fairly thick magazine, you should be able to bend it, and so you get the idea with that. So in my state, for example, my state used to send all license plates for cars as flats. They can't do that anymore. They have to send them as package service. So, because license plates are not supposed to be flexible. Okay. And let's move on. I'm getting some great comments, by the way. I have given you a cheat sheet. So if you look on your webinar pane, you will see, it doesn't say go to webinar app instructions, it says certified mail cheat sheet. You can click on that and download a cheat sheet to help you out with some of the things that we've talked about today. If you're by chance watching this as a recording, just email support, or if you have trouble downloading it, just email support@pcsynergy.com. Our support team has this available and can email it back to you. Make sure to ask for the certified one, because I've given them tons of cheat sheets and they got to pull the right one. You don't want to get something on UPS today. That's not our goal. All right, so let's move to questions, and I'm sure we have a bunch of questions. So I'm going to start going over there, and we do have a ton of questions. Some of these I've probably already answered, so if I think I've answered it, and it's really hard, with 300 of you on board, it's really hard to get to all the questions, as you can imagine. If I don't answer your question, please email it to support@pcsynergy.com. I'll be watching the emails for the next 30 minutes or so, and I will either personally answer, or if it's something support's already comfortable with, then they'll answer, and we'll get to your questions on that and get your answers to you. Okay, and I literally have probably 60 questions, so bear with me here. I'm going to try. How long do we have to hold on to the scan form notice? I don't know that you have to hold on to the scan form at all, but you do need to hold on to those tails, if you will, and I would recommend you hold on to those tails. I mean, honestly, I would hold on to them for 7 years. I know that sounds ridiculous, but remember, if this was something for IRS, then they have 7 years usually to come back at somebody. So let me tell you what I would do with those. Go to Walmart, pick up one of those 4x6 index card holders and the monthly dividers, okay? Every month when you do these, if you're gonna use that little tail, once it's round dated at the post office, bring it back and put it under the month that you did it. At the end of the year, take them all and either rubber band them or staple them and put them in the back of the index card thing and start the new year. And do that for 7 years, rotating the oldest one out after 7 years. That's what I used to do. That's what I would do. It's easy and out of the way. And so I have a whole bunch of you saying, is this something new? No, it's not something new. And I'm sorry, I'm still getting rid of a cold. So I still am a little bit froggy. Somebody asked, they're saying they're using Indicia with Postmate. Can you give the tail to your driver to round date? No, your driver does not have a round date. He can't do anything with it. He can scan your scan form, but he cannot round date your Form 3800 certified mail form. And well, I've had a comment here that the local post offices are bad about scanning those certified, and that doesn't surprise me. But if your driver scans the scan form, then that takes you out of the equation. And folks, one of my goals is always to keep you at the smallest possible risk available. And so using scan forms is the way to do that, and by using that whole 4x6 IMPB label. And this I'm glad, Andrew, you asked this question, and I won't say last names because let's face it, there's a million Andrews out there. He says that he's been using his meter machine and putting the tail of the 3800 through the meter machine to get a date on it. And will that do? And no, that will not be valid in a court of law. That is not good for the IRS. They won't accept it. A federal court will not accept it, and most state courts will not accept it. So that is not going to be good enough in many cases. If there's a lawsuit that gets attached to that, you could end up being liable if your customer is found financially liable. He could turn around and sue you because you've sold him a false item. So you need to make sure that you do the right thing. There is not a way to just see that I'm aware of if you're on manual or automatic scan forms, but then I don't have an Indicia account and I'm not privy to all the information you go into your profile and look. So I suppose it's possible it's in there somewhere. I just don't know of a way to go in and look and see. So obviously, I think I answered that question pretty good. Sorry, guys. So again, why can't you just put the IMPB label on sideways? You can, but make sure if you put it on sideways, which is lengthwise in concert with the length of the smaller envelope, make sure that you include the non-machinable surcharge, which is 15 cents extra postage, or it will go postage due, and that won't make friends of you from your customer. And okay. You know, I don't know. I'm going to repeat this question because I don't necessarily know the answer. And folks, I don't work for the post office, so I don't know how everything works. He says their sorting facility, laser reader sees our return address in the center of the letter. It is possible with the IMPB, it's very likely, well, your meter number is included in that. So in that, whether it be in the really weird barcode with all the little dots and lines, it probably has your store's address, name and address in there because you're the owner of that meter number with Indicia. If there's a problem, they need to be able to know who authorized or who issued that postage. And so that would correctly be a part of the internal stuff, but that will not affect where it's from and where it's to. But believe me, if there's some illegal substance in that envelope, they're going to be postal inspectors will be knocking on your door to see if you have any video or can remember who that customer was, yada, yada. All right. Is there a way? Okay, got that one. Sorry, again, I'm going through literally a couple hundred questions here. When you're adding, and I'm going to go back, guys, so I can go back to, I just want to go back to this. So this certified mail sticker ideally will be on the right side. In certain circumstances, you won't have the luxury of placing it where you want because of other stuff or information that's on that envelope. That's fine. If it's on the left side or below or above, I don't think it's that big a deal. If it's in a perfect, placement, it'll be on the right. The rules do say that it should be placed to the right, but I don't think it's critical to it. So I always try to teach you what the rules are, but I have never, ever heard of something bad happening because this green certified sticker, the 3800N, was placed on the left side. So, oh gosh. Okay, we do have 2 first-class services, and I will briefly go into that. In fact, I'm not going to bring it up. The 2 first-class services you currently now have available to you, and you've actually had these available for a while, but they're more noticeable now, is first-class package service and first-class package service dash retail. The difference between the two, the primary difference is for the first-class package service without the dash retail, the cost is cheaper, the weight allowance is a little bit heavier, it goes to 15.99 ounces, and it's designed for business purposes. It can be personal. It just cannot have any personal correspondence included with it. So no cards or letters included in it. So if it's a gift from Grandma to Johnny and it's just a little fire truck inside, that can go. But as long as her birthday card is mailed separately. But if the birthday card is going to be included in the box, then no, it would have to go as package service - retail or upgraded to priority mail. So that's the primary difference between first class package service and first class package service retail. And we did a webinar that included that, and that should be posted on our website. There is one more option I wanted to give you before we leave, and it's called a firm mailing book. And I still have some stores that use that. So I'm not going to teach a lot of information about this, but this is an extra alternative when you use quick postage. And that is, you actually, instead of taking the mail piece down to your post office to have the tail round dated, you enter the information in a firm mailing book provided to you by the post office. And the post office then round dates the page that lists that for that day. And you might have one item on it, you might have 10 items on it, I don't know. But round dates it, and you don't have to present the mail piece. I don't have all the instructions. However, you do have all the instructions, because that handout that I asked you to click on has the link with all the USPS instructions. So if you are determined that you need to continue using quick postage with the 3800 with a tail on it, and you cannot get down to the post office and stand in line to the clerk and get that round dated, then please look into using a firm mailing book. And again, that's something that's completely outside of Postmate and Indicia, so I don't teach it, but I do want you to know that there is that alternative out there. And if it's something you want to use, please look into that. That's been around forever and ever. I've had stores using that for 25, 30 years. And if you're using it, bully for you, that's wonderful. Keep doing it. Don't change a thing if it's working for you, because it's perfectly legal. And it makes everything perfect. Okay. Sometimes if you have a really nice driver or carrier, he will take your tails, and I have Ann telling us they actually take a rubber stamp and stamp the back of the tail with their store name and address. And he will take the tails and he will get them round dated for them on their behalf. And then the next day he brings them back to the store. He doesn't have to do that. I hope that you give him a really good $100 bonus every Christmas and give him all the drinks that he wants when he comes into your store, and that you're really nice and help carry out mail and all these other wonderful things, because he doesn't have to do that. And if you have that arrangement with your postman, I am so pleased for you. Most of us get postmen that barely know how to speak and grunt, let alone do nice things like that. So I'm really picking on postmen, but I think we've all had that postman once in a while. I'm sure most of them are very nice. So forgive me for being very flippant. And let's see. I think I've got to most of them. And sorry, I'm having trouble now sorting through the different emails, whether I've read them or not. A mailer, a bubble mailer, can be a flat. It cannot be a letter because it's over a 1/4 inch thick. But a flat can only be up to 3/4 of an inch thick. In fact, let me see if I can get to that screen. There we go. So a flat can only be up to 3/4 of an inch thick. So make sure that you are in compliance there. Okay. Okay, so Dave, I'm going to answer your question before I go, because there is confusion, because there's two different ways to do certified mail and Postmate. I am talking about two completely different but legal methods. Number one, using quick postage with form 3800 and having the tail round dated at the post office. That's one way. Well, and I'm going to qualify that. There's a next, and then there's the third way, using quick postage, using Form 3800 with the tail on it, and using a firm mailing book. That's also. The second way to do in Postalmate is using the IMPB label with the green solid sticker 3800-N with no barcode on it, and then that uses the scan form to make it legal. Okay, so either method is fine. Don't want you to be confused and think you have to do one or the other. And the purpose of this webinar, by the way, is to stop you from faking a round date. That's really my purpose. Number one, stop you from faking a round date because it can get you in significant legal and financial trouble if something goes haywire. And number two, make sure that you know about that green sticker if you use that full barcode, because that's not something that's widely known or talked about. So that's the bulk of why we do this. And again, I'm just trying to keep you guys out of hot water as best I can. Okay, I think that pretty much answers all of our questions for today. If you think of a question, or if I didn't get to your question, because literally there are hundreds here, some of them are, you're repeating questions, somebody's already thought of that question, please just email it to support@pcsynergy.com. I will get to it. No problem. If you email me directly, I will tell you that I don't have a block of time every day where I can just sit and just answer emails or call people up. My time is already spoken for. So I get time maybe once or twice a week to do that. So please don't be surprised if it takes me several days to get back to you, and I apologize for that, but that's not my role. That's our support department's role. I don't get to talk to you as much as they do. I wish I could, but that's not on my schedule. So I'm happy to get back to you. If you think it's something only I can answer, that's fine. But I will watch the emails, and most of you have heard from me anyway through support. I always watch the emails coming through support in case it's something that does need my attention. They're wonderful. So please email. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time. Oh, by the way, new stuff coming. There is new stuff coming. UPS is slightly changing some rates, making a few rates better for you. That's coming in at about a week's time. A week's time? Yeah, about a week's time. You'll hear about that soon. FedEx has had some changes on FedEx home delivery for Saturdays. Information on that will be coming up soon. And the next webinar I'm scheduling is going to be on drop-offs, but I'm also going to talk about those two items. So that will be the first Wednesday in March. Can you believe it's March already? So thank you all. Have a great day and keep shipping. Take care. Bye-bye.